Welcome to the Modern Nurse Podcast. My name is Emily Knife, and I am here with Sherri Mack. She's an amazing person and an amazing nurse, and she's going to tell us all about her story today, as well as cannabis nursing. So, Sherri, take it away. We're so excited to have you here.
Oh, wow, Emily, thank you so much for having me on. I'll tell you what, we all don't wake up one day and say, hey, I'm going to be a cannabis nurse, right?
Right.
A compelling story that surrounds that avenue, particularly since we are in a crossroads. Plant medicine is evolving. Cannabis is still Schedule 1. Hopefully it will be descheduled. It's on I call it the chopping block to be rescheduled, but truly this plant needs to be freed for everyone. And my story of getting into cannabis nursing really started off with a need. Back in 2012, I was a nurse working at 3 big teaching hospitals in Massachusetts, clinical nurse specialist, clinical nurse medical center liaison, helping people get home on therapies that were very, very difficult. Prior to doing that, I did all critical care, emergency, all kinds of amazing things in my nursing profession. But when I found myself getting sick on the other side of the bed, I got sick in 2012 and almost died. And literally, I'm also a holistic nurse. So meaning that I always engaged in alternative holistic healing modalities, diet, nutrition, connection, movement, rest, all of the energy modalities that exist. I've always been a big part of my life. So I found myself on the other side of the bed, sick, suffering, and truly, not understanding why I wasn't getting better. And it was the pills and the procedures, right? And so this is what they do, the merry-go-round of handing out pills and multiple procedures. And truly, if someone understood about the endocannabinoid system, which is how cannabis works in the body, I may not have suffered for so long. So in my journey, I was on over 18 pharmaceuticals. I was disabled, unable to work, single mother of 3, spent 6 weeks in the ICU, came home, and was just completely debilitated. And it was one pill, one procedure, one problem, one complication after another. And after about 2 years of suffering, and it was really bad. It's just a scary place to be in when you have an awful lot to live for, but you don't feel it. And that's where I was. And it was a 70-year-old nurse. I love nurses that came to my house. She was actually one of my energy healing clients. So I'm a Reiki master. I do reconnective healing. I love the energy modalities. And she was trying to reach out to me. And I was obviously blowing her off because I was very, very sick. And she came to my house with a joint, literally came to my house with a joint from her garden.
Wow.
And she literally said to me, Sherri, you've been ignoring me for way too long. I know that you're sick. I know that you're suffering, and you need to try this. And she basically disclosed to me that she was 70 years old, using cannabis every day since the age of 17. And she was a nurse.
Yeah.
And actually worked at a college prior to retiring as a nurse, teaching. And she disclosed to me that her father was a pharmacist and actually carried cannabis formulations in his pharmacy prior to 1937.
Wow, that
So,
just gave me chills.
yes. And so she comes to me with the joint, and I said to her, really? How could this possibly work for me when the most powerful pharmaceuticals aren't doing anything? Wasn't touching my pain. I can't work. I could barely take care of my kids. It was really, really horrible. And she basically said, get with the program. She goes, get with the program. Cannabis has been around for thousands and thousands of years. It's legal medically in Massachusetts as of 2012. And she says, I hope that I live to see the day that it becomes federally legal. She says, you have nothing to lose. And she was right. And the interesting thing is when I took that puff, right, I didn't get high. It was bizarre. It was very weird. I was like, how could this be that I am inhaling this substance that usually is a party drug, and I only understood it to get high and recreational, and there's nothing wrong with that. But how could this impact my body so quickly that
Mm.
my pain went from a 10 to a 0 within 10 minutes?
Wow. That's amazing.
So yeah, and then of course I was like, I felt like my head cracked open and consciousness
Yeah.
poured in, and I was just like, I need to figure this out,
Yeah.
and so I literally went and got my medical card. I was plagued with stigma, completely plagued with stigma. I had a hat on. I went to a different town. I didn't want anyone to know me. I was so, the stigma is
Yeah.
alive, real
Absolutely.
today. And so I'm here to dispel that for sure.
Yeah.
And when I got my medical card, I said to the doctor, now what? And he said, good luck, kid.
Wow.
And I was horrified. So I needed to figure out how to make cannabis work for me. And that's what I did. So I embarked upon a journey. I went shopping, went to the dispensaries. I also involved myself in the legacy market, and the legacy market of those people that have come before us that have been growing cannabis
Yeah.
and making medicine for people for years and years, and involved myself in that community to learn and to really learn about that. And then got involved with the American Cannabis Nurses Association, the Cannabis Nurses Network, and I bought all this cannabis, and I sat down and I said, gosh, if I can figure this out, you can call me the green nurse. At
Oh
the
my
time,
gosh. That's
isn't that funny?
amazing.
Right?
Yes.
And here we are, what, 10 years later.
Yeah.
I figured out how to make cannabis work for me. And then I knew that there were other people that were out there that were getting the good luck from the doctor and
Mhm.
figuring this out on your own. And so that's how I started my business. I started the Green Nurse. And the Green Nurse, is a holistic cannabis nurse that teaches on the endocannabinoid system and the safe utilization of cannabis as medicine and other progressive tools. And one of the things I learned about cannabis as medicine and the endocannabinoid system is everything that we tell our patients to do or not do. If you're a clinician, I want you to
Right.
listen
Yeah.
up,
Listen up. Yeah.
right? Everything that we tell a patient to do or not do in their life affects the endocannabinoid system. That is the master regulatory system in our body. Very, very important. It's not taught in medical
Mhm.
school. It's not taught in nursing school yet,
Yeah.
but it will be
Mhm.
very, very soon. And so basically I embarked upon that journey, found the Green Nurse, and then, started helping and educating other patients. And then what happened is, I got involved, started working with, getting involved in dispensaries, started working at a CBD shop, and met some amazing people in the market, and just really started to just evolve in this space of educating patients to start.
Yeah.
And then once I found, other nurses, educating other nurses and other health professionals how to incorporate cannabis and CBD into what they're already doing. Because if the endocannabinoid system is the master regulatory system that regulates all other systems,
Mm.
it makes sense that all health practitioners should know this.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Have a leg up, literally be a hero to your patient, learn
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Um, and so then what ended up happening is in 2020, COVID hit, and then I had to take everything online.
Mhm.
And I ended up meeting Elizabeth Mack. She's my business partner. She created Holistic Caring in San Diego. So the Green Nurse was in Massachusetts, Boston, and I also started podcasting in 2018. And I
Okay.
started podcasting because, first of all, my mother blocked me on Facebook. She was
Gosh.
plagued with stigma, literally wrote me out of her will. She was writing me letters, very Irish, very Catholic, very, very scared. It was the devil's lettuce to her.
Yeah.
I love you, mom, but she's on cannabis now, just so you
Yeah.
know. Went back over. And so in 2018, the National Council State Boards of Nursing, which is the nursing regulatory board that tests all nurses
Mhm.
to get, in every single state to get their nursing license,
Right.
they wrote in a 64-page document in the Journal of Nursing Regulation that all nurses, nurse practitioners, and nursing students must have 6 essential areas of knowledge when it comes to cannabis as medicine. That
Wow.
2018. So I took that as an invitation to, it is time for me to really get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah.
Sharing this information and sharing compelling stories. So in 2018, I founded my podcast, The Green Nurse Living Your Best Life, to share compelling stories of healing of patients and providers, because a lot of people that are providers in the plant medicine arena have a healing story that goes with it that
Mhm.
prompted them to truly delve into this as an opportunity to help others and to fulfill their life's mission, right? Of what living your best life and helping others do the same. That's my tagline.
Yes.
So founded the podcast 2018, 2020 COVID hit. We needed to take everything online. And I found more and more nurses wanting to get involved and nurses wanting to be trained. And I would have nurses that would actually come and fly and stay with me for a week. And I would do that one-on-one training with them a week at a time. And then I was like, I need curriculum. And so I've taken all the curriculum. I've taught at some colleges. I was going to create my own, but I met Elizabeth Mack. And
Mhm.
Elizabeth Mack actually wrote Cannabis for Health, Become a Coach.
Wow. It's
So
amazing.
I got this book and I was very blown away by it. And she's created educational programs. And so I needed to be able to bring nurses. I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. Someone
Yeah,
else has
yeah.
created the curriculum. And the reason why I really felt aligned with Elizabeth and her programs is because Elizabeth, too, was also a nurse patient who found cannabis as medicine, and she's taken care of thousands of patients as well.
Mhm.
So not only is her book, research focused, evidence-based focused, but also comes from a lens of nursing actually doing and taking care of patients that have come to her for help. So I
Wow.
felt most in alignment with her programs, and we merged our companies in 2021
Yeah. Yay.
to make holistic caring in the green nurse.
Nice.
And that's the story of how we were birthed. And so holistic caring is educational programs for patients and providers. And for nurses, we offer continuing education credits for all of our programs that we offer. We have the Cannabis Nurse Health Coach program, which is our flagship program, and a lot of other programs as well. And then the Green Nurse is the coaching and consulting. So a lot of the Green Nurse, we see patients, geriatrics to pediatrics, and we educate and empower them and help them to figure out how to nuance the endocannabinoid system and choose safe products to get started on their journey of healing.
That's amazing. Wow. Wow. I love what you're doing. It's so amazing. And so just, it's in nursing, we're just so taught to like stay in a box and like be at bedside. And it's like so robotic. And you just bring in such a fresh energy into to nursing and understanding cannabis and the endocannabinoid system. And like the nervous system, it's so ingrained as like a root. And why I say this is because a lot of our diseases and disorders are inflammation based and stress based, right? Like, why do we have all these specialties when it really comes down to like the endocannabinoid system and the nervous system, which regulates so much of our diseases and disorders, right? So, what are some really profound like testimonies that you can think of off the top of your head that have had, you know, have changed patients' lives, basically, whether it's like a provider or a nurse or a patient? What are some like things that stick out to your mind that have just been so profound and life changing for some of your patients?
I'll have to say the podcast has been very profound in sharing
Mm.
those stories, because it was in sharing those healing stories that actually helped my mother. So you have to think about
Wow.
cognitive dissonance is
Yeah.
when you know something but don't feel it, right? And
Okay.
there's a lot of, so I could present research, I could present literature, I could present all this information, clinical evidence on the benefits of cannabis and therapeutics, yet she still didn't feel it, right? And so the power of storytelling and sharing your story was what helped my mother. So my
Wow.
mother, this is a great story. So I took care of a nun. This is a really
Oh
good
my
story.
gosh.
Yep. Catholic nun. She came to me in 2017. She was on 400 micrograms of fentanyl. She was misdiagnosed with MS. They put her on all kinds of pharmaceuticals. The pharmaceuticals failed horribly. She fell, had a stroke, ended up in the hospital, woke up with chronic regional pain syndrome, which is a
Gosh.
debilitating
Yeah.
pain that is just horrible. And so she, over the course of years, was on multiple pharmaceuticals. She was getting lidocaine infusions, fentanyl patch every 36 hours, 400 micrograms, which is a lot.
Yeah.
And also had an internal neurotransmitter stimulator for pain management. She was suffering. And so I took care of her, and it was really a great story, really great story. She started within a couple of months seeing results. And over the course of a year and a half, with her doctor, we weaned her off of her fentanyl. And I remember her the last day that she took off the patch, she was very, very nervous that she was going to have to take a ton more THC. She was really afraid she was going to have to. But what we did was we worked lifestyle as medicine, cannabinoids, and there's multiple different types of cannabinoids that exist, multiple different supplements that can enhance the endocannabinoid system and make cannabis work better. And so we really set her up for success. And also looking at lifestyle, connection, nutrition, movement, rest, meditation, grounding, all of these things. And and I remember when she took that last fentanyl patch off, she was so nervous, and she was like, Sherri, it was just like I took it off and I was healed. There was no
Wow.
need to increase anything. And so she is opioid free today. And then it got her so excited that she wanted to share the message of, this is not the devil's lettuce. This is the Lord's kale, right?
The Lord scale. I love it.
and and truly
So
wanted
good.
to get the message out. So she started podcasting. And so I helped her get
Wow.
onto a lot of other podcasts. She came onto my podcast. And at one point in time, I said to her, I said, Sister Suzanne, I love my mother, but she is suffering, and I know cannabis would benefit her. And she's Irish, and she's Catholic, and she's scared. And with all respect, what would Jesus say about all this cannabis? And she held up her finger and she goes, Sherri, Jesus would say, what the frig did it take you so long to use
Aw.
God-given plant that I created for you? It would be a sin not to use it.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I took that clip and I sent it to my mother. And within a couple of weeks, she called me up and she watched the podcast. She actually watched all of her podcasts. And she actually wanted to have a conversation with Sister Suzanne. And Sister Suzanne said, I'll pray for your mother. And she did. And then my mother was open to using cannabis. And she said, okay, what's the gateway? How can I do this? How can I start? My mother has osteoporosis. She has osteoarthritis. She has tons of pain. She's dislocated her shoulder, knee pain. She fell, broke both of her knees and her ankles, just really, really inflamed and in pain. And what happens if I don't know if you ever experienced chronic pain, but I know I have. You become
Yeah.
very depressed. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? It's
absolutely.
very, very depressing. And so a lot of depression, issues with sleep, not feeling well, and so basically and this is how we work with patients, right? Is we meet them where they're at. And I said, okay, Mom, we're going to go on a journey together. We're going to do this together. And it's not about me, it's about you and what you feel comfortable with. And we'll do it one step at a time. And so I got CBD isolate, the isolated molecule of CBD, and MCT oil. And I go, we're going to do 2 ingredients and we're going to mix them together. And so we just made a CBD isolate topical for her. And I said, I want you to put this all over your body. And I want you to feel comfortable knowing you're not going to be high. You're not going to be impaired. I just want you to feel comfortable with CBD. Well, after a couple of weeks of that, she called me up and said, this could be better, couldn't it? And I go, of course it could. I said, now you're going to take it orally.
Oh,
So
wow.
we did it
Yeah.
topically, she did it orally. Again, called me up, it could be better. Yes, let's add more of the plant. And so then we did broad spectrum CBD, which is whole plant with the THC removed.
Mhm.
And then finally, she was open to full spectrum CBD. And that's, whole plant, including THC, less than 0.3% THC. The plant makes THC. We make a molecule called anandamide. The molecular structure is the same. So I had that education with her that this is something her body's going to recognize, and it's low dose.
Mhm.
And she felt comfortable with that, and she tried it, and she was like, wow, this is amazing. I can't believe this is helping me. And then finally, after about a year, she says, okay, I want to try some of the chocolate. Can you send me a chocolate bar? I want to try some THC.
Yeah.
So we had the education around, starting low and going slow. You want to start with one square. It was a 5 milligram chocolate square. Sometimes 2.5 milligrams for older adults is enough, but she wanted to feel it. And I said, I want you to have your CBD on board. And I said, if you get into trouble, I said, have your dinner. After dinner, have a chocolate square. Don't take any more. If you get into trouble, call me and let's talk tomorrow. She goes, great. Well, I didn't hear from her right away. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to give her some time. So I
Mhm.
called her up and I said, so how was it? And she goes, well, the chocolate tasted really good. And I didn't eat just one. I go, oh no. She goes, I had a couple. I go, how many? And she goes, 3. And so that's 15 milligrams of THC, which is a high dose for someone that's older, a little bit too
Yeah.
much. But she knew how to mitigate it because I taught her, if you get into trouble, call me.
Yeah.
But she basically said, I felt high and it was wonderful. That was her. That was her. Now I know what it feels like to be high. And now I
Wow.
understand why people seek that experience. She goes, I won't take that much again.
Yeah.
And so it was very interesting. And part of
Oh
my
my
mom's
gosh.
story was she wanted to come on my podcast. And so she came on
No.
my podcast to share her story. And she says, I was wrong about all of you. I thought you were all stoners. And she goes, gosh, cannabis makes me feel good and I'm not high. And I said, well, Mom, what does it mean to feel good and not be high? Well, pains become background noise. I'm sleeping better. I'm not so grumpy. I'm not so mean, right? And I'm not so
Um,
depressed about all of my medical problems anymore. So, and I said, but are you high? She goes, only when I take 3 chocolates, right? So,
That's so
and
funny.
that was my mother's story. And I'm written back in the will, thank God.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's such a great story. And it just goes to show um, you don't have to start like hitting heavy and hard with these
No.
types of things. And that's not meant to be that way. It's, society really does a number on cannabis and understanding, the therapeutic benefits of that. So, speaking of the therapeutic benefits, that's something that you're going to be speaking about at Modern Nurse Fest in October. I'm so excited to have you both, you and
Yes.
Elizabeth Mack as well. And so I think you're talking about therapeutic use of cannabis and the therapeutic use of psychedelics, which is
Yes.
another right taboo topic.
It is, and it's part of my journey as well. So,
Yes.
you have to understand. So, psychedelics is a great way to do a lot of different things, exploring consciousness for healing, right? So, cannabis truly helped to heal my body, but I also experienced a lot of trauma,
Yeah.
medical trauma, pharmaceutical trauma, and then you have to think about the COVID-19 trauma, and then all of the traumas and dramas from the past that are coming up and surfacing. And psychedelics are also a big part of my story. One of the things that it helped me to heal from or ongoing healing, PTSD doesn't go away,
Right.
but I have, complex PTSD. I also had a condition called agoraphobia. It's interesting, right? You get people
Yeah.
afraid to leave their homes. I was one of those. And so psychedelics truly helps me to heal that. And it also helps me to expand my consciousness and to open up to receive different information, things that I wouldn't be open to normally. And so psychedelics is part of our journey, and we are going to be talking about the therapeutic use of both cannabis and psychedelics. Psychedelics isn't as the psychedelic revolution is evolving, and there's a lot of nurses that are out there doing that. And so what we're going to be talking about is our program that we developed, which is Introduction to Psychedelics, and how nursing was actually truly involved in psychedelics way back in the 1950s.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about that, and the psychedelic presentation, and then a lot of how we can use cannabinoids if someone is using psychedelics, because it's truly about the endocannabinoid system and the endocannabinoid dome, right? And the endocannabinoid dome incorporates the endocannabinoid system plus the lipid dome, the microbiome, and all of the neurotransmitter signaling systems. And so it's really important, if people are coming to us and are using psychedelics, how we can help them to take care of their endocannabinoid system and using lifestyle as medicine,
Wow.
some of the tools that are available. And so we're going to talk about that. Cannabis nursing in particular, I'm very, very excited about, because it is truly making its mark in history. In September 27th, 2023, almost a year ago, cannabis nursing was recognized as a specialty by the American Nurses Association, which is really, really powerful. It gives a lot of validation to nurses that have been doing this for a long time in the underground. And, the American Medical Association doesn't approve of it. I'm actually, the scope and standards of nursing was just published this year in conjunction with the American Cannabis Nurses Association and the American Nurses Association. And the scope and standards is the who, what, when, where, why of cannabis nursing. And it actually outlines 18 competencies for nurses. And it's really, really, really exciting that this is actually happening, because nurses are truly the game changers when it comes to evolution in healthcare, right? Health as expanding consciousness, evolving our practice in just a different way. And
Wow.
that's why I'm so grateful for what you're doing at the Modern Nurse School of Academy.
Yes, yes, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. And you are the Holistic Caring Network and the school that you have put together with Elizabeth Mack and the Green Nurse. You are just awesome resources for nurses or patients. And so the School of Modern Nursing supports this as one of our premier education resources. So if you are a nurse and you are interested in learning more about this for your patients, or maybe for yourself, maybe you want to dabble in this area of healing, which is so profound and it doesn't really come with a lot of side effects. I have to say myself, I've used both cannabis and microdosing psilocybin, and I can tell you that the only thing that I really had as a side effect is like a little bit of a stomach upset. But other than that, I mean, there's no
And we
like,
can mitigate that with CBD.
yes, yes,
Great
exactly,
formula.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
I totally agree. I being pharmaceutical free,
Yeah.
being on eight, and this is the interesting thing too. A lot of nurses may or may not know this, but if you're on 5 or more pharmaceuticals, there's a 50% chance that they're interacting. If
Yes.
you're on 10 or more pharmaceuticals, 100% that they're interacting and probably not in your best and highest interest.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that I learned through my journey is that a lot of pharmaceuticals have what we call a drug nutrient depletion. There's an amazing book out there called Drug Muggers.
Yes.
So if you're taking this particular pharmaceutical, whatever it may be, and it's causing a depletion in specific nutrients, you need to supplement or make sure that you eat enough of those foods, because what's going to happen, it's going to impact your endocannabinoid system over
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's all linked. It's all
Oh,
together. It's like everything's together. And, in nursing and medical school, we're kind of taught like everything's separated. Even as a
yes.
mental health nurse, it's like we're severed off at the head. And it's like, no, it's all one thing. It's all connected, and so I think you guys do a really good job. Both you and Elizabeth Mack do such a great job of educating about that and understanding that it's so interconnected, and bringing in, with the coaching, these other lifestyle modalities. And as nurses, we are taught, a little bit about that, but a lot of the focus is on the pharmaceuticals. And so it's such a joy that you guys are just paving the way for nurses to understand more about cannabis and psychedelics. So thank you for doing what you're doing. I really appreciate that. So
Absolutely.
where can we find more of Sherri Mack, more of your programs? Where can people head to find this information? Obviously, it will be in our show notes at the
Yes.
bottom, but where can they go to find you?
So holisticcaring.com. You go to the website, www.holisticcaring.com. And then when you go onto the main page, one of the things I'd like to invite you to is our private network. It says join the network. It's free. It's free for patients. It's free for providers. We have a lot of free educational programs in there. We have introduction to cannabis as medicine and the ABCs of CBD. And then we also have in our network free events that we do. We do clinical conversations monthly. We put all of our podcasts in there. We have a plant medicine support group that meets the fourth Monday of every month at 4:20 p.m. And this is for people that are
Nice.
new to cannabis or new to psychedelics. So people can come in and join and learn
Yeah,
for
that's
free.
huge. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you for those resources. And we'll be hearing more from Sherri Mack and Elizabeth Mack again at the Modern Nurse Fest in October. So please get your tickets for that. And thank you again. Thanks for coming on here. This was great. I enjoyed having you. And yeah, this has been amazing.
We look forward to educating and connecting with more modern nurses.
Yes, awesome. All right. Yeah, have a great day. Thank you so much, Sherri.
Okay.